Okay. All right, welcome everyone. For those who are not used to being here, some of our new people joining us, we are nonprofit for newbies. We are a company that focuses on nonprofit startup and development. We take you step by step. So we start in the startup phase, essentially how to put together your paperwork, how to structure your board, and how to really build your foundation so that it is strong when you are going to ask for funding. Once you have a strong foundation, then we help you put together the documentation, all of the paperwork, all of the business planning, everything that you need in order to be eligible for a grant and for funding from your community. So we walk you through the startup process all the way up into the development process. And then from there, we have supportive services for our more established organizations, but we really want to be able to hold your hand the whole way through. So we had a lot of people in our academy, actually, when we spoke with everyone, people were saying that their biggest concern right now was funding. So we really wanted to start this year off strong by going right into funding. Anyone who does not have their paperwork yet, that's okay. We can help you get your paperwork together. We have courses, we have one-on-one walkthroughs, and we have filing services. We literally have anything for any budget. Courses starting at $10 that literally, if you had a little bit more time and were willing to put in the effort, you would be fine filing after you watch that course. It's about an hour and a half, all the way up until filing services that we can offer to you based on the purpose of your organization. So our goal, our mission is to make sure that no one who wants to start a nonprofit, who wants to do good in the community is struggling or feeling overwhelmed while they're trying to develop the organization. So we really took some time towards the end of the year to look at everything that we've done so far and look at what we want to do in the future and how we can best implement this for our new members and for the people who stuck with us from the very beginning. So this training is free. So we open this up to the public. Anyone can access this training. This is just something to give back, towards the end of the year, allowing people to have some sort of information, a crash course towards introductions to grants and funding. All right. So webinar logistics, this session is being recorded. The recording will be shared on my website under the cafe, but I will also email it out to you. I actually put the webinar link in the chat box. So if you wanted to invite anyone, you should go into the chat box and copy that link. All right, if you are having technical issues, Nicole is actually going to be presenting today. So after I get done talking, I will be able to go into the chat box and engage with you guys and make sure that everyone is on the same page here. Okay. Who's speaking today? Today's presenter is going to be Nicole. I will allow her to introduce herself because she is a powerhouse grant writer. Again, she's our grant writer. Her grant writing team earned over close to 3.4 million just in 2021 alone. So you were in good hands working with Nicole. Again, we're starting all the way from grant readiness all the way up until you have your 501c3, you have no clue what to do next. We're going to walk through that today. And so you can write down any questions that you have. And at the end of the chat, you can ask those questions and either Nicole or myself will be able to answer them for you. All right, so we sort of did this already, but just share your name, share your city, share your purpose. We want to know who we have today. Let's see. I'm going to go back. Like I said, most people, it looks like, are actually in Georgia, which is cool. I'm Mark from Germany. Hi, Mark. Orlando, Florida, Mississippi, Michigan, Jacksonville, Indiana, Cleveland. We have people from all over today. Baltimore, Maryland. I'm in Maryland. Hey. Oh, hi, Namia. All right, Ashley, Minerva. Okay, Texas, cool. Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. Perfect. Okay. That's right. Gambia, West Africa, Indianapolis. Cool. All right. So the agenda today is learning objectives. Let's see, let me get this out of the way. All right, learning objective today is for our attendees to be equipped with the knowledge to prepare their organization for startup and funding. One thing about it, I actually, when I first started my consulting agency, it was 100% free. So I actually started our Nonprofit for Newbies Facebook group without the intention of offering consulting services at all whatsoever. I just felt like all the information I had, we needed a community where I could share this information as a group, because I had so many colleagues and friends who were asking me, well, how do I start a nonprofit? How do I start a nonprofit? It was just too much. I could not explain to every single person exactly what to do. So I just went ahead and started Nonprofit for Newbies as a Facebook group, and I would just go live and walk people through the process. And then it got to the point where people were like, okay, Gigi, this part-time, you telling me what to do and me trying to catch the lives is not going to work. I need you to sit down with me one-on-one, help me walk through this paperwork or do this paperwork for me, walk me through these funding objectives, these funding goals I have. So that's when God literally told me, listen, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go and help these people. I had no plan. I had no, savings. I had nothing. I just quit my job and was like, okay, I believe, I have faith that this is going to work out. And ever since then, every single barrier that's been put in my way has been removed. I've never had any issue with seeking a community to share my information with. So I wasn't surprised when we had, so many people register for this training, because I know the information is needed. I know that people are looking for it. And I know you guys are tired of feeling like overwhelmed, intimidated, trying to figure out, what to do next, because when you go on Google, there is literally, the information is so confusing, and then you talk to one consultant, they don't want to tell you anything whatsoever. Then you talk to someone else and they tell you way too much information. It's confusing. You have no clue if they even know what they're talking about. So the goal for today is to make this as simple as possible. Again, this is a crash course. So we're going to go over the general information because everyone here is in a different position as far as, where they're at within their organization. If you have questions that are more specific to where you are particularly at, most likely there will be someone in here who is also in that same position and has the same question as you. We have, most likely thousands of people are going to watch this recording. So don't feel stupid. Don't feel like this is a stupid question. Ask your question. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because this is Nonprofit for Newbies. And if you have a more educated question, because you've done a little bit more research or you've, been operating for a while, we can answer those questions as well. No big deal. All right. So I am going to let Nicole take the wheel now. Let's see. Nicole, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Do you still hear me?
Yes. Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself, girl. It's your turn.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nicole Farrell, and I am the founder and project manager for Rubber City Development Consulting. We are based in Akron, Ohio, and offer funding, development, all sorts of nonprofit structuring activities just to help make your organization more likely to receive funding later on. As Gigi said, my company has earned $3.4 million in the last calendar year in grant funding. That is a combination of foundation grants, state grants, federal grants. I have an absolute rock star for a federal grant writer who has earned, she's won a $1.4 million grant, which is just wild. I also am one of the senior grant writers for Funding for Social Change, which is a grant writing collective for social change organizations. That company, I think we just surpassed $2 million for this calendar year. I think, don't quote me on it. And then, of course, I'm a coach for Nonprofit for Newbies, and I'm actually a nonprofit founder myself. I founded the Summit County Alumni Association, which is a youth leadership organization that endeavors to offer youth leadership activities to poverty impacted youth in the Summit County, Ohio area. And I am talking to you today about what grants are. Gigi, we can't see the PowerPoint. You're fine. I was like, where'd it go? I have it up on my computer, but I figured other people might want to look at it. But so if you have questions, just drop them in the box. And when I get to, there's a whole section on questions. When I get to that section, I will go through as many of your questions as possible. And then I will make myself available by email if you have any additional questions afterwards. So let's go into it. So what are grants and what do they do? One of the biggest things with new nonprofit founders is that they're not quite sure what grants do, what it means to actually earn a grant. So grants is, to put it simply, free money. And it is free money that comes from wealthy donors. It can come from corporations. It can come from states. It can come from the federal government. And what it does is help you with programs and projects and different operational expenses. Now, grants are their money, it's money not destined to give back to the person who gave it to you. Now, there are some grants when you apply to them, if you were to utilize them for a purpose other than what you applied for, there is a lot of clauses that say that you do have to pay them back if you do that. So just be aware. Always spend your grant funding on things that you say you're going to spend it on. And grants are not like loans. So a loan, you go to a bank, it's based on your credit score. You have to pay it back eventually. Grants are not like that. They look at your narrative. They don't look at your personal history. They don't look at your credit score or anything to think about giving you funding. They just want to look at the passion you bring to your organization, your impact, and who you're helping. It's a pretty solid way to get your organization some growth funding, but should not be seen as the only way to fund your organization. Grants should make up less than 20% of your overall budget for the year, and the rest of it should come from fundraisers and sponsors and regular donors. Again, go ahead and put those questions in the box as they come to you. Gigi, would you mind clicking the slide forward? So I just touched over this just a little bit. So there's a lot of different kinds of funders. We have foundation funders that are, they can be local, they can be state, regional, national, and even international. I know in my local community, I have, oh goodness, there's funders that cover just the city. There's funders that cover the county and the region of the state, and it just keeps going on and on. And then there's international funders that will fund literally anywhere in the world. And your worthiness for these organizations can vary depending on the size and scope of your organization and theirs. I always recommend to new funders, focus small first. So if you are less than a year old, I would recommend contacting your local foundations because they're going to be more likely to fund you than a huge international foundation, if that makes sense. In addition to regular foundations, we have corporate foundations. Most of the organizations or the companies that you shop at every day offer grants and have foundations. Off the top of my head, I know Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Publix, Whole Foods, they all have their own foundations and they all give funding. And each, just like a regular foundation funder, offers different funding to different organizations. So I know Publix likes to do youth charities and sometimes food security, and Walmart will fund just about anything except for 509A2, but that's a different conversation. And so it really, you have to be looking at every foundation's requirements because you might spend a ton of time applying to a grant and not get it because you're not the organization that they're looking for. From there, we have state, which each state gives out their own grants, and they usually have sub-classifications of what they give out. So I know personally my state, which is Ohio, they give out funding for substance abuse charities and senior services and education and things like that. And a majority of states offer the same kind of funding. State grants are a lot harder to get than foundation or corporate and require a lot more documentation. So I recommend that organizations that are 3 to 5 years old and really well established with a lot of their different paperwork and all the things that they need to really be a solidly structured organization, they have those in place before they go for state grants. Because you're talking about, and I just applied to a state grant, took me nearly 100 hours to complete and needed a lot of documentation. So you want to make sure you have your ducks in a row before you spend all of that time writing it to not get it in the end. From there, we also have federal, which federal is the cream of the crop as far as grant funding goes. So you might get 150,000 max for foundation, corporate, a little bit more for state. My company's earned a $400,000 state grant before. But federal grants, where you're looking at the really large organizations that offer a lot of stuff, that help a lot of people and have a really, really strong structure. And the biggest federal grant I just mentioned earlier that my company has won was 1.4 million. And the organization who won it was rather large and, covered a large swath of their state with their services. So they were able to really easily secure that funding just because of how well structured they were. So that's another one that I recommend that you be probably 5 years old, if not more, with really strong structuring. And we're going to talk about grant structuring in just a minute, so don't worry about that. But the federal grants, oh my goodness, I have spent hundreds of hours working on federal grants just because they require so much stuff. And I do recommend, if you go into federal grants, that you take as many webinars as possible for grants.gov. Because if you have seen dumb websites, you have never seen a website as dumb and less easy to use than grants.gov. It is a pain, and the webinars help a ton. As far as in-kind is a little bit different, and in-kind can be great to these organizations that help people, that help animals, because say you run a charity that operates to serve homeless people and you need socks and shoes and things like that, that would be an in-kind grant. So an in-kind grant is a physical item or service that is donated to your organization by a company or a foundation. So I do a lot of work in animal welfare, and a huge in-kind grant that we talk about a lot is food for animals. And you can get in-kind grants for just about anything. I've earned in-kind grants for laptops and shoes and socks and food. Also, there's in-kind grants for web design services and different things like that. So professional services and items is what you're looking at for in-kind. And they have a lot fewer requirements for reporting. So each grant is going to require you to report how you used things. And in-kind really doesn't do that as much. Gigi, would you click ahead for me? You're awesome. Thank you so much. So we have all of our kinds of grantors, and we have different kinds of grants. This is without the in-kind, because in-kind is kind of its own thing. So for our types of grants, we have project, we have program, we have general operating, and we have capital. And I know this seems confusing, like, why are there so many different kinds of grants? But when you start to learn what the definitions are, it makes a lot of sense. So project grants are for projects that your organization runs. So this will be a short-term project that is maybe ran through one of your programs, but is not expected to last more than a year. So it has a definitive start and end date, and that's what project grants fund. As far as program funding is for long-term programs that your organization runs, because I'm assuming 99.9% of our organizations have at least one program. And so say you were a substance abuse charity who offered counseling, and that was one of your programs, you would look for ongoing program funding for that, which would be that kind of grant that you would apply for. General operating is like the gold mine as far as grants go, because general operating really lets you spend it on just about whatever you want or need. So general operating is typically seen as an unrestricted fund, which means that you can fund it pretty much however your organization sees fit, and the funder isn't really going to complain about it. Sometimes they'll have a couple of requirements, but you just have to be clear on your reading there for those. And so general operating expenses usually cover rent, utilities, administrative costs, salaries, and things like that. Things that are harder to fund and that you need more funding for. So if you can find a general operating grant, I 100% recommend that you apply for it if you qualify, just because it is the gold mine as far as granting goes. So capital is hard. I'm going to say that now. So if you're looking at, so capital expenses are big expenses that are required for your organization to start or grow, like buildings. When you think of capital expenses, usually you think of buildings. We're talking usually more than $100,000. And capital grants are out there. There's not a ton of them, but they are out there. And they are closer to being, even if they're a foundation grant, they have a lot of requirements like state and federal, because it is sheerly so much money. Recently, I was working on a capital grant to help repair an old church that now functions as a community hub of sorts under the other company I contract with. And I wrote a 20-page grant for that. And we just submitted it, but it was like for $450,000. So really substantial stuff. When you think capital, usually you think big money. Go ahead, Gigi, if you wouldn't mind. So I see all of your questions as they're filtering in, and I swear I'm going to come back to them as soon as I'm done, because I may answer your question before we get there. So organization, is your organization ready to apply? And I want to say before I have Gigi click, this list and the list that comes after it are very long. And I don't want you to be scared, because it is a lot of stuff. And if you have questions later on and you're like, oh my gosh, Nicole, this is too much. Gigi, this is too much. Do not worry, because it is much easier than you think. It's a long process, but we'll get you there. So Gigi, go ahead. So basic grant ready checklist. And I know this is a lot, but this is really how I, as a grant writer, determine if we are ready to go for grants. And this is for smaller grants like foundation and corporate. So your 501c3 status is really super important, and having that in hand. 99% of grants want you to have your 501c3. Well, I don't have my 501c3 yet, but I need funding. So what do I need to do, Nicole? Well, if you've never heard about fiscal sponsorship, I'm about to change your life. So fiscal sponsorship is when an organization that is older than yours, usually 5 years or older, partners with your organization and agrees to be your fiscal manager as far as grants go. And basically what grants look at when you apply to them is for longevity and your 501c3. Usually grants want 2 to 5 years of taxes. And obviously, if you're a brand new organization, that's not going to work at all, is it? So what you do when you partner with a fiscal sponsor is the organization that is granting to you looks at your fiscal sponsor's history and not yours. So if you're a brand new organization, but your fiscal sponsor's 10 years old, they're going to count you as a 10-year-old organization when they look at your grant application. So that opens you up. Instead of applying to, $1,000 seed grants, you could apply for some substantial funding if you have a strong fiscal sponsor. And I can go into how to find one in a few minutes when we get to the questions part, because I think that's a good thing to cover. Tamika, you beat me to it. So that is a really, really, really big thing. And just to give you a little bit of a heads up, so fiscal sponsor, they do require a fee, and it's because they do a lot of fiscal management and accounting for you. And so you're looking at between 7 and 13% of your overall budget going to your fiscal sponsor. So just be aware of that, but it's not as bad as you think, especially if you're a newer organization. Your budget might be $50,000. It's not a ton of money. So moving on from that, I'll come back to fiscal sponsorship in a minute. So your employer identification number is super important. All grant applications that I have ever put in have a box where they require your EIN. So if you're a 501c3, this is not a big deal because you'll get one when you get your 501c3 status. If you are not a 501, this is where the fiscal sponsor comes in, because in grant applications, you would use theirs. So if you do not have one yet, if you haven't started the process to creating a 501c3 and need your EIN, this is the thing that you would contact Gigi for, because Gigi is the boss at getting EINs for people. As far as moving down the list, really, really good mission and vision statements are also important. I have rarely seen a grant application that does not want to know your mission. And so you might in your heart know what you want to do and how you want to do it, but funders want to see something official. So mission and vision statements are ideal. And if you don't have one, we are doing a cohort starting in 2022, and we're doing hands-on coaching through mission and vision statements with a lot more. And I'll go over that in a minute too. So financials, which is what I run into organizations having the least of. So I have organizations that I work with who have been on operation for 8 years and do not have budgets yet. And that's super important. You should have an overall organization budget for each year. And then when you get to about November of the year, you should start creating the budget for the next year. And then you should have budgets for each organization or each program that your organization runs. That's just good practice. And that is something, if you need assistance with, please reach out, because that's something I can't offer too. 990s, also important. We just talked about those. If you don't have 990s, that is again where the fiscal sponsorship comes in. And if you don't know what a 990 form is, that is the tax form that you file at the end of each year for your nonprofit. Just like you file your taxes, you go on TurboTax and file your taxes, the 990 is what you file for your organization. A W-9 is super easy. You fill this out yourself. Basically has your employer identification number and information on payment. It's a federal form for when you get paid out for grants and things. It's just good practice to have one on hand. And if you Google W-9 IRS, you get the form and you can just fill that out and keep it for your organization. So properly structured board of directors is super important. You definitely need to have at least, I'd recommend 5, just because it seems to be better, but I think the minimum is 3. And it needs to be 51% or more, not your family. That is a legal requirement as per the IRS, and that's one of the biggest things I run into. And if you apply for grants and most of your board of directors are family members, you will 100% be denied. They look at that because they do not want any unethical practices. And often when your family is involved, it kind of muddies the waters. So I recommend, my sister is on my board of directors for my nonprofit, but the other 4 people are not family. And that is a really good ratio to have. So in organizational history and accomplishments, this one I'm only going to skirt over. You should know your organization history, but a lot of people don't know how to tell it to another person. So I recommend sitting down and writing out how and why you started your organization, and just having that as a document going forward, because a lot of grant applications are going to require it. From there, a program overview for each of your programs is super important. And then an impact and evaluation framework. And I could talk for hours about an impact and evaluation framework, but basically this shows, it's a framework for how you collect data for your organization and who it impacts. And we will talk about this much further in our cohort in 2022. If you have any questions about this, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will answer them as quickly as possible, because I know, like I said, I could talk for hours. I've done 20 hours of training in the last couple of months just about impact and evaluation. Annual reports, which are your end of year reports that you send to donors and things. They're usually graphic designed and just say, hey, this is what we did this year. A lot of funders actually do require them. Funders like to see that you have a website and or social media, and they also like to see that you have a logo. If you need help creating a logo, you don't have a logo yet, please reach out to Gigi. I believe that Gigi offers that service, and if not, she can refer you to somebody who can. Incorporation documents are also very important. So we're talking your bylaws and your state incorporation and things like that. Gigi is also the queen of those. So if you need help with those, reach out to her for sure. And then going back to your board of directors, a lot of grants require you to submit a list of your board of directors with their photos and professional affiliations. The reason for this is so that there's no conflict of interest. For example, I can't apply to Wells Fargo grants for one of my organizations because one of the people on their board works for Wells Fargo, so it's a conflict of interest. So that's usually the reason that they want to see those. And I know that was a lot really quick, and I do apologize. This is a crash course, so I'm going to get to all your questions at the end. Gigi, would you go ahead and click forward for me? And I'm so sorry, here's a huge list. So this is the advanced grant readiness, and this is for large foundation, state, and federal grants, and everything from your first list needs to go on here. And I don't know why this list is the same. I don't know why I didn't change this. So everything from the first list goes on this one. I'm just going to talk to you about what else you would need. So we need, for more advanced grant readiness, you need something called a logic model. And again, with impact and evaluation, I could explain logic models for hours. Basically, logic models look at what resources you have and you're putting into your organization, and how those resources turn into outputs. So people served and how you serve them and what impact it really had on those people. I just applied to a rather large federal grant that required one. And it wasn't a super complicated document. It's maybe 2 pages long, but they did require it because they want to see that connection from what you are going to be spending money on to how it actually helps people. In addition, another thing that needs to be included for advanced grant readiness is strategic plans. So a strategic plan, and some of you may have heard of this because it's pretty common for grants and organizations just as a whole. It's a plan that takes your organization and it looks at what you are, where you are currently, and where you are going to be in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever time period, and how you're going to accomplish these things. So say for right now, as an example, my organization just founded. And so my strategic plan talks about how we are going to grow the organization, partner with local community partners, apply for grants, secure funding, and eventually get to a point where I can provide project grants for local nonprofits that offer youth development for poverty impacted kids. And that's just the first year of strategic plan. So if you've never done strategic planning, there's some really awesome resources, like nonprofitready.org has some, and I am in a training through Stanford right now for strategic planning. So if you have any questions, I'll drop my email in the chat at the end and you can reach out that way, because strategic plans are difficult, but so incredibly important. From there, so a lot of advanced grants require partnerships. If you don't have partnerships in your community, I 100% recommend it. Partnerships don't necessarily have to mean you're working with an organization, but if you offer the same services as an organization, it is really cool to formalize a partnership that says, I'll provide you with this, and you'll provide me with this. Or say something like, if you're both doing homelessness services, say your organization and the other organization agree, if you can't serve somebody, you'll send them to them. And partnerships are solidified with memorandums of understanding, which are a lot like contracts, and partner letters. And partner letters are required for a lot of different grants. I just submitted a grant that required 5 of them, so 5 major partnerships. But partnerships are really good because if you really solidify partnerships in your community, you're being seen not only by the community at large that you already serve, but you're being seen by communities served by these partner organizations. And it really, once you get these partnerships together, it can really increase the trajectory for your organization. And so as far as those go, the budget documents, everything I talked about before are also super integral to this, but also the logic model, the strategic plan, and those partnerships. Could you go ahead, Gigi, and click the next one for me? Okay, so before I answer any questions, can you go ahead and do this poll for me? Can you put in if you are there, almost there, or nowhere close to grant readiness based on everything I just said, and just type it in the chat. I love it. I'm seeing a mix. If you are nowhere near close and you need help, like I said, I'm going to drop my email in the chat, and Gigi's email is going to be on the last slide too. You can reach out to one of us and we can get you connected with services that you might need, or coaching, or you can join our cohort, but we'll talk about the cohort in just a minute. All right, so while they're finishing that, would you click ahead for me, Gigi? And I'll start answering some of the many questions. I think that was the other way. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So if you do have concerns about the capacity of your organization's readiness, please reach out to us in the Learning Academy. And there's going to be a link to the Learning Academy in just a minute, because we can definitely help you out. All right, so one more thing. So the components of a grant cycle. So before you even dive headfirst into granting, I want to kind of let you know how serious and how lengthy granting is. So it is not just we apply for a grant, we immediately find out we won funding, we use the funding to help people. I applied for a grant, and I just posted about this in the Learning, or not the Learning Academy, the group. So I applied for 2 grants in August. They were the first grants I applied for the organization. And I just in the last week found out that I won them. So we're talking 4 months that it took from submission to actually notification. And the grant funds won't even be paid out until January. So we're looking at close to 6 months where between submission and actually earning the funds. So the first thing that everybody does in the grant process is grant prospect research. You can't apply to grants if you don't know what they are. So there's a lot of different software you can use, and I can drop a couple software in the chat. Some of them are really expensive. The most expensive one I use is $150 a month, and they do require your organization have more than $50,000 in revenue a year to use it. The cheapest one I use is $9,000, or not $9,000, $9 a month. Oh my goodness, I don't know where my brain is. But if you have a local library, you can actually go in there and ask them for Foundation Center Online, and that is free if you go to your library. And that's a free grant search software. And your librarian is going to be gold when it comes to grant research. They have a ton of resources for you for free. So from there, you will contact foundations, and some foundations require you to contact them before, just to create a dialogue with them and see if your organization is something that they would even fund. From there, if they say, yes, this is a program that we would love to fund, a lot of times you'll have to submit a letter of interest. So a letter of interest is really, of course, it's a letter, but it's a formal introduction for your organization, your programs to the foundation. Usually it outlines exactly the program you need funding for and how much funding you need for said program. From there, that letter goes to the board of directors on whichever foundation, and they either accept or deny it. Sometimes they'll deny it, and this is where your grant process will stop for that grant. And sometimes they'll accept it. So from there, a lot of them offer information sessions where you can ask questions and talk to the funder about how to submit the perfect proposal. I 100% recommend going to every information session that is available to you because it will increase your chances of winning. Then you'll actually write the proposal and submit it. And, sometimes we do get denials, and that's okay. If the founder allows when you get denied, I reach out and ask why. Could be something as simple as your grammar. It could be something like, they thought the program was something they'd like to fund with the letter of interest, but now they're like, it's not exactly what we thought it was. So really create that dialogue, and being respectful the whole time will create a lasting relationship with those funders and will get you more likely to be funded later on. So really at all times, think that you're building partnerships, even if it is with a funder. Creating those partnerships is integral to the survival of your organization. If your proposal is accepted, yay, your proposal will be accepted. You will get a letter, get an email, something awesome that says, how much funding you're going to get from the organization and when. And sometimes you may have applied for $100,000 and they may have only found enough money for like $75,000. So don't be discouraged if they don't fully fund your proposal. It's totally fine. And it does happen pretty frequently. And sometimes they will like it so much that they'll give you more. I literally just applied to a $15,000 grant and had a phone call with the grantor. And she was like, you know what? We're going to give you $18,000. And I was like, all right, I'm down with that. I like more money, especially for that organization was great. So from there, you'll get information on fund disbursement. And it's really boring, but some might send you a check. Some might want to do bank transfer. It just depends on the grantor. Just make sure that you follow their directions to the T. If you mess this up, you might not get funding from them again. In addition, so from there, you'll have reporting requirements, and those are usually outlined before you actually apply to the grant. So say the grantor wants updates every 3 months. And so you'll have to write a mini proposal every 3 months to let them know how the funding has helped your organization. And you're also going to want to keep all the receipts. You're going to want to have a really strong accounting processes because they're going to look at every single thing you have spent your funding on. And there is legal ramifications if you do not spend your funding correctly. It's called misappropriation of funds, and you can go to jail for it. So you have to be really, really careful when you are spending the funding, and you make sure that you have really, really great reporting processes so that you know what you spent the funding on and you can report that back to the funders. And then there's acknowledgement requirements. So a lot of corporate funders love these, where they'll want you to give them a shout out on social media. They'll want you to do a press release, things like that. Always be communicative with your foundation to make sure you are reporting how they want you to, and you're acknowledging them, because some of them, I've worked with a couple of foundations that do not want to be acknowledged. So really respect whatever they want so that you can have an opportunity for more funding from them. Go ahead, Gigi, and click the next one for me. Thank you so much. I don't know why this isn't filled out. Canva is giving me trouble this week.
No, I'm sorry, Nicole. That's actually my fault. This is the one that we had drafted together. I don't have the one that you actually finished. Sorry about that.
That's in front of me. So I will just I will read off of here because I opened another Canva one earlier and it did like erased everything I've written. So I figured that's what happened here. So really, the keys that I want you to take away from this, as far as really what you need to be working on to improve your chances of getting funded. So fiscal sponsorship, and I'll talk about fiscal sponsorship in just a minute when we get to the questions. So people who need to leave can leave if they want to. And if you want to stick around and hear about fiscal sponsorship, you can stick around. Fiscal sponsorship is key, especially for nonprofit startup founders.
Sorry, Nicole, sorry to interrupt. I would recommend you guys do not leave yet because I actually have something to offer at the end. Sorry, Nicole, go ahead.
Gigi, you got all the good stuff. You got all the deals. I love it. So stick around because Gigi's always, got that energy, just like, hey, you get this and you get this. It's amazing. Okay, so from there, strong program partners, also 100% essential. Be reaching out to organizations in your community. Go to networking events. It's like my favorite thing to do is give out business cards. Go to networking events, talk to people in your community, really get ingratiated with your community, get to know different nonprofits and see how you can help each other. Even if they don't do exactly what you do, there is a way for you to be involved with each other, be it, attending their events, them attending yours, whatever. Your community partnerships are worth their weight in gold. Active strategic planning. So have your board of directors always looking at the future. I know we talk about living in the moment, but that doesn't exist for nonprofits. If you're not planning what you're doing in the future, by the time you get there, your organization is going to have fizzled out. So really have a really active board. And that leads me into my next point, which is a dedicated board of directors. Have a super active board. Always be planning the next thing. Always be working towards getting better and getting bigger. And always have those extensive organizational documents that I just went through and those lists a couple slides ago. If you don't have them, be working on them. I mean, I work a ton. And, in my spare time, I'm, tweaking my bylaws or I'm working on my business plan for my nonprofit, because just setting, an hour aside a week, you can get something done on these, because they're just so important. And I cannot stress it enough. If you think, hey, I've only got a couple of these, but I can still apply for grants, you're not going to go very far as granting goes. And you really, to be able to grow your programs, you're really going to need some grant funding. You can click the next one, Gigi.
Okay. Okay, first of all, Nicole, did you want to do questions first, or did you want to talk about the Academy first?
I can do questions first if you want to.
That's what I figured. I'll skip through. There we go.
Let me go into all of these amazing questions. Okay, I'm going to scroll. Give me a second while I find everything. Okay, the first one is from Rhonda Parker. Thank you so much for your question. What makes an organization and a grant writer a good fit? So what you want to look at with a grant writer is, you want to talk to them about their experience, and a grant writer should always be able to provide you with references and or materials that they've written before. For my clients that are thinking about coming on with me, I just send them a packet of some, really strong grants I've written. And we talk about what their organization does and the organizations that have helped in the past. So for me, and just for me in particular, I know that I am not very good at working with advocacy organizations because I haven't done a ton of that, and lobbying organizations, things that are just like, here's my idea and I want to change your mind about this idea, those sort of organizations. So when you talk to an organization, when you talk to a grant writer, if they don't have experience working with your style of organization, then they may be an awesome grant writer, but I would shop around before deciding on them, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure that you have somebody who is affordable, who has the experience, who knows what they're doing and can help you. And I will warn you ahead of time. So 99% of grant writers that you connect with are just going to do grant writing. And they are not going to worry about getting your additional documents. They're not going to worry about your budgets. They're not going to worry about your strategic plan. They're just going to grant write. And they're not going to really coach you on how to be grant worthy, if that makes sense, because that's not typically their job. So just be aware of that. Now I do everything because I work with a lot of newbie grant seekers, so new organizations. And I think that that's the best way to go. But you want to look at, am I doing a funding consultant or am I connecting with a grant writer? Because there is a difference. A funding and development consultant will do a little bit of everything, where a grant writer will just do grant writing. And you want to be careful. If you need that extra assistance, you should connect with a funding and development consultant instead. Hope that answered your question, Rhonda. To Jennifer, thank you so much for this question. So do we look for someone specific to help us depending on our organization? So just back to my Rhonda answer. Yes and no. So like I said, you might find somebody who's really awesome and doesn't have experience with your type of organization. And that can be fine, but make sure you're looking at those receipts. So you're looking at the writing samples. If they have references, look at their website. How many clients do they have? That sort of thing. Because a lot of people will have different niches, and a lot of grant writers, if you are not within their specific niche, can refer you out. Like me, I don't do a ton for, like I said, advocacy, and I have a friend who does. So I refer out because I still want to help those people, but I don't have that skill set. So thank you so much, Jennifer. So Tamika, thank you so much for your questions. So how do you locate local grants? And this goes back to the library. Your librarian is going to be your best friend as far as grant writing goes. And if you don't have a library card, you might want to just go get one just to get the grant assistance. Your librarian can probably give you, there's specific books that come out every couple of years that have lists of grants by location and things like that. And the same for a foundation center online. And I would also look for, so I know locally to me, the city government website has a couple opportunities and a couple foundations. The Chamber of Commerce is a good opportunity to look at. Sometimes they'll list things. And then some states have a center for nonprofits. So I know Georgia, I just moved here from Georgia. Georgia has a center for nonprofits and they have grant listings and things. And then just working your Google. So say I live in Akron. So I would Google Akron local foundations and a bunch of stuff would come up, the Knight Foundation and a couple other foundations. So really it's leveraging your Google and your search experience and looking up. I would recommend for everybody looking up different tips and tricks to properly search in the internet, because there are so many different command keys you can put into websites like Google that make your search more impactful. Also from Tamika, how do you know when grants are available from these organizations? Super awesome question. So grants will often on their websites or on whatever directory you use to find them will have open dates and closing dates. And usually they'll also list their foundation cycle. So what we just talked about a minute ago, where there's a specific cycle for contacting the organization and submitting a letter of interest, they'll have deadlines for all of these on their website. And then sometimes you'll see something and it'll say rolling. And what does rolling mean? So rolling deadlines mean that you can apply at any time. So be looking for those because you don't have to be married to that deadline. You can apply to those whenever you want or are able to. I hope that answered your question, Tamika. So let's see. Shelly, thank you so much. For those of us who are working internationally, which type of grants do you suggest we start with? So, Shelly, international grants. I love them and I hate them at the same time. So I actually have a little bit of experience applying for international funding for a couple organizations in Africa, Thailand, Cambodia, where else? There's a lot of countries. And honestly, the best way to start for newer organizations that are working internationally is to look at international companies. Pentair is one of them, P-E-N-T-A-I-R for all of my international organizations. That's an international company that does grants to different organizations, and you can submit a letter of interest to them via email. Corporate is probably the way that I would start. Also, another way to look for international organizations is to look in the local community you serve for any diplomacy of any kind. So anything from the United Nations, any ambassadors, they often offer grants to the local community through their home country. So that's another good place to look for international grants. So I think Jennifer just left. But just to recover what in-kind means. So in-kind donations are those physical donations and sometimes service donations. So shoes, computers, things that you can actually touch. And then services like website design, fundraising services, things like that. And sometimes you can get in-kind donations of software and things. So that's what we're thinking of when we think of in-kind. So also from Jennifer, she's got some awesome questions. Is it typically easier to receive in-kind grants? And the answer on that is 100% yes. It is easier to contact a company and ask them for items than it is to ask for funding, because the items are a lot cheaper. Say it costs them $2 to buy that pair of shoes they're donating. But otherwise you would have to, do a $200 grant or something to buy as many shoes. So in-kind is definitely easier, and it's a little bit harder to find, but there are some in-kind directories online. So be looking for those. So Chris, can you expand more about that 20% of grants and when to begin applying after 3 years? So when you look at granting, funders don't want your whole budget to be made up of grants. They want you to be deploying a fundraising strategy, connecting with donors, doing sponsorships and things like that. So you want each of those things to make up close to 20% of your budget. Now, grants, the way I look at grants is that they can do, 20% of your overall year budget, but grants are really essential to when you're looking to grow programs. So if you have a program that for the last 3 years has been a $10,000 budget and you're looking to reach, 100 new people, you can apply for a grant to help expand that to 15, 20,000. So definitely I do recommend though aiming for about 20%, because any more is going to be a little bit of a red flag to grantors. But definitely that ratio can be higher if you're in a period of growth and are looking for extensive growth funding. And when to begin applying after 3 years. So I don't recommend waiting the 3 years. I recommend connecting with a fiscal sponsor and applying the whole time. And then when you get to 2 to 5 years old and can apply for grants on your own, I would 100% recommend doing so. But my recommendation is to start that granting history early through connecting with a fiscal sponsor. Dorothy, should freshly new nonprofit organizations apply for local project grants? 100%. If you have that 501 in hand, of course I recommend a fiscal sponsor, but I would reach out to local foundations and see what their requirements are and how favorably they look on new nonprofits. Some will fund you. Some will say, hey, you're too new. And that's when you need to connect with that fiscal sponsor first. But some will fund you. Your local places, your local foundations are more likely to fund you than anybody else, especially when you're new. So thank you for that question. Monet, can capital grants be used for obtaining a location for your organization? 100%. That is what they are most used for, is getting property, is undertaking, huge renovations that you need, things that don't directly tie into programs, but will allow you to offer more programs later on. So thank you so much for that question. So do you use a grant management software? Thank you, Yolanda. I do. So I use a project management software called Notion, and you can design it however you want. And I'm able to drop all of my grant applications in there, assign them to different clients, assign my writers to them. And it's $8 a month plus $4 per person that signed up. So pretty cheap. As far as management software made directly for grants, GEMS is pretty cool, GEMS. And that one's newer and it's still pretty affordable. I think it's like $40 a month, but it doesn't do actual grant searching through it. Instrumental is another one, and that's the one I was talking about. That's like $150 a month and requires you to have a revenue of like $50,000. But that's a grant search and management software. So it really just depends on what your needs are at a given time. So Tamika, again, with the amazing questions. So how do you find a fiscal sponsorship? So that's a good question. So part of that can be your local partnerships. If you have a local nonprofit organization like a state nonprofit collective, you can contact them and see if anybody can fiscally sponsor you. There are also a couple websites online, and let me look it up. Okay, I'm going to drop one in the chat, called fiscalsponsordirectory.org. Okay. And that is a place that you can look up by the kind of organization that you are to see anybody that is similar in mission to you that might be able to assist you. And other than that, leveraging those partnerships is really cool as well, to be able to partner as a fiscal sponsor for a fiscal sponsor with a local organization. That's always ideal. So Kenzie, does a fiscal sponsor have to be a nonprofit? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So to get a grant made for a nonprofit, your fiscal sponsor has to also be a nonprofit, cannot be a for-profit business. That's a really good question. That had never occurred to me before. So thank you so much for that. Do they have to be a similar business model with a similar mission? So business model, not necessarily. They could be a differently structured organization than your own, but they should offer similar services. It does not have to be necessarily the same, but say one of the organizations I work with, they are a food justice organization, and they fiscally sponsor an organization that does like human services. And so they both help people, but it's not like an animal organization fiscally sponsoring a business development organization. So they should be similar, but don't have to be the same. So thank you for those questions. Those are awesome. Rhonda, what are the differences, mission and vision statements? So a mission is what you do. So your mission statement should say what you are doing for your organization in a concise way, and your vision statement should more or less be how you do it. That's a little complicated to explain as fully as I possibly need to, but we will be covering that much further in our Learning Academy. So I know Gigi's going to talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to try and breeze through. Let me see who else I can answer questions for, and then we'll get to Gigi's bit. Let me see. I'm going to answer one more question and then pass it off to Gigi. Okay, Candace, is one family member on your board okay? Yes. So what you're looking at as far as your board structure, you want more than 51% of your board to be non-family. And I recommend no more than one, but some people do get away with more. But make sure that you have more of your board not family than family. It just helps with ethical reasons and proper decorum. I know I missed a couple of questions, but we're already over time and I could answer these questions all day. So I'm going to drop my email in the chat. If you have direct questions, you can definitely email me later. Gigi, do you want to talk about the Learning Academy and the awesome things that we are doing the beginning of the year?
Sure, of course. Now, first, I did have a few people who, I don't know if it was on purpose or an accident, but direct message me questions. So I'll go through those very quickly. So Alexis, she asked, as a new nonprofit, she's been doing everything out of her own pocket, which happens a lot when you don't know how to get funding. How do I sign up with you to work with you? Also, when do you use grant funding to pay yourself a salary and eventually hire someone? Okay, so I'll start with the second question first. So as far as paying yourself a salary, so there, again, this is a crash course, so I don't want to confuse you with giving you too much information, but essentially when you structure your board, there are volunteers who are board members. Anyone who is a volunteer can be on the board. Typically, if you're on the board, you're not going to be paid. So if you do want to take a salary, then you should not be on the board. You should take the role as founder and CEO. So actually I'm dropping a third, okay, I'll get there. So there's a lot of information I'm going to be sharing with you, a lot of freebies within the next couple of days, and we're going to go into detail about that. But essentially, when you look at your budget, let's say your budget is $10,000. No more than 20 to 30% of that budget should go towards salary expenses. And when I say salary, I mean your administrative. So anyone who is a CEO, anyone who is doing the day-to-day administration work. So if you have two co-founders who are doing the day-to-day, sometimes you use those terms CEO, executive director, and also president, not to be confused with board president. So those are three terminologies for the same person who is paying themselves to do the day-to-day work. Don't be afraid to put yourself on a grant as a salary expense, because actually funders do want to see that someone is taking on the responsibility. If they give you $20,000, they want to know that you don't have a bunch of volunteers, saying, hey, we'll take the 20,000, we'll make sure we do what, you told us to do with that money. They want to know that someone is actually taking the time to manage those funds. They need a project manager, which is typically, again, going to be the CEO. So 20 to 30% of your budget should go towards salary. And if you hire someone, if they're administrative, they should go within that 20 to 30%. If you have, like, for example, a counselor or a teacher or someone who is program specific, a mentor that you're paying to mentor young children, a speaker who you're paying, that does not count within that 20 to 30%. Typically, you would be able to put that within your program's expenses, which, that should be the majority of your budget. Okay. All right. Someone asked, do I have a fiscal sponsorship template draft? So typically when you seek fiscal sponsorship, they're going to have, and Nicole touched on this a little bit, they're going to have different rules for how they expect you to pay them back. So it might be taking a percentage of your of the money that you raise. It might be a monthly fee each month, or it might be a mixture of both. So typically they're going to have their own fiscal sponsorship paperwork for you to sign. That's something, you would either look over yourself and read through very thoroughly. If you don't understand something, we have our scheduled consultations where we can walk through it together. Either myself or Nicole can look through it with you to see, if it's something that is a great opportunity for you, if it's something that you can trust, but also you can join a learning academy. So I wanted to talk about it briefly. The learning, and Chris said, can Nicole drop her names of the software? So Nicole, if you don't mind dropping the names of, I believe it was the grant management software, I'm not sure. But I'm getting some direct messages, and I think people are trying to put it in the general. Perfect. Okay. All right. So really and truly, everyone here is a nonprofit founder who has good intentions. It's very rare that I come across someone who wants to start a nonprofit for the wrong reason. And I don't know if that's because of the people that I attract towards me, but I've never had issues where I can transparently see that someone is coming in and they're just trying to, make a get rich quick scheme or pay less in their taxes or anything like that. I've never experienced that. And I also have a clear policy on my contract. If that's your, intentions for your 501c3 organization, don't work with us, cancel the contract. So if they did want to do that, they're already gone. The people that I work with, when I hear their stories, when I talk to them about, what they've been through and why they're doing what they do, it really baffles me that it's so hard to get information about starting and funding your organization. You talk to some people, like I said earlier, and they don't want to give you anything. So you don't even know if you're going to someone who's able to educate you, because they won't give you anything to build that authority, and make you feel like the money that you're paying, you're going to get value out of what what they're offering. And then you go to some people and you're not sure if they know what they're talking about. It's too much information. You go on Google, it's super confusing because the terminology is just all over the place. So trust me, I understand how overwhelming it can be to start and then grow your organization. But it's totally not fair, because you have so much that you want to do for people, and you being that good person is being inhibited because you can't find the information that you need. So what we did was we put together a budget-friendly option. It's been very difficult for me to maintain, one-on-one coaching and consulting on a weekly or daily basis with a lot of my clients, and still be able to stick within a budget for a nonprofit that's just starting up. And I know a lot of you guys are paying out of pocket to get started. So what we did was we put together a group coaching program with the option to have time one-on-one breakout sessions to meet with myself and the other experts that I've been working with for years. referring people to, we brought them onto the academy. So just imagine Nicole plus 5, I think 6 other people who are just as educated as her, being there to answer your questions every step of the way, to give you step-by-step guidance, and we're all working together. So you're not going to get one fact from a fundraising consultant, one fact from our board development consultant, something else from our fundraising and grant writing consultant, and then something else from Gigi. We all work together. We have our own community where we chat as coaches. So everyone's on the same page and making sure that you have all the value that you need to get started. So our goal at this point is grant readiness and grant funding. So we're going to try to help you accumulate funding as quickly as possible. I know a lot of people, wait years to start and drag out the process. Listen, 2022 is your year, so let's get started. Let's start week 1, January 2nd. We're going to start new. We're going to go attend these workshops. We have weekly workshops with Nicole and our other coaches. We are going to go step by step through everything that we talked about in this presentation. So we're going to start with grant readiness all the way up until writing grants, fundraising, board. A lot of you guys have boards who are not helping you, and that's why you don't have any, community support, because you're the only person spreading information about your organization. Your whole board should be helping you spread information. They should be helping you network. They should be helping you fundraise. So a lot of you need a board revamp. We need to help you find high quality board members. That's where our board development coach, Kim, comes in. To admit these people. We need to help you train your board. So we're going to have a training where we tell you to invite your board members. Let us coach them and tell them what they need to be doing to take the weight off of your shoulders. So that you got your 501c3 or you got your fiscal sponsorship, you have no clue what to do next. Staying in compliance is a big one, because where is the education telling you, okay, I filed my paperwork, how do I maintain my 501c3 status? How do I make sure I'm not doing something that I had no clue was wrong and I did it and I messed up everything for myself and my community? How do I maintain the grant funding, the project management funding that I receive? So we're going to help you through all of that. You have a year's worth of access to us. We're going to help you navigate all those common mistakes. We're going to help you get your community engaged. We're going to write grants together. We're going to, have fundraising action items. Every week, we're going to have challenges, homework, quizzes. No one is going to be left behind. So the Learning Academy is going to be $25 a month. For the first 30 people who sign up today, we're going to waive the $50 enrollment fee. So you'll just go to nfnlearningacademy.com and get registered. And within that, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to schedule your 2022 strategy session with Nicole. So in order to make sure that we don't have people who are coming in, and we learned this last year, there's a lot of people who come in and we're all in different positions. We don't know if where we're supposed to be, what classes are going to be relevant to us. And if we don't need, let's say you don't need grant readiness, you're just ready to, write grants. Okay, well, we'll put you in our special cohort with our advanced members. If you have no clue where you're supposed to be, Nicole will put you where you need to be. So we're going to start there. After you get your 2022 strategy session scheduled, we're going to help you again putting together your development plan. And then all we need you to do is commit to spending an hour a week at a minimum, because we have so many more resources, an hour a week at a minimum with us in the workshops, and then active participation as we ask you to put that into real life action. If you do what we ask you to do, you will be funded in 2022. So that's the goal. And then let's see if there's anything else I needed to mention. That's pretty much it. We are looking forward to starting next year fresh with a full, 52 weeks of workshops. And one of the things I'm also going to be offering is my 12 days of Christmas. So this is actually the first day of Christmas. Every day for the next 12 days, I'm going to be offering either a training or a live Q&A or a template or a quiz. There's going to be all types of resources I'm going to be sending out for the next 12 days, completely free. Anyone who's on the email list is going to receive it. And it's going to address and go into detail a little bit more about some of the things that we talked about today, some of the most commonly asked questions that may not have been asked on this session, especially for the people who are just starting. Shalanda, did you mean to raise your hand? Let me check the chat here. Did anyone have any questions about that? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, can you repeat where we need to go to sign up for the you said the first 30 people for the grant writing?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Can you guys see my screen right now, or you're looking at me?
I can see at the bottom that's typing what you're saying, but you said it so fast it went away.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought you guys could see my screen. So it's NFN in like nonprofit, F like for in like newbies, nonprofit for newbies, NFN learningacademy.com. That's where you'll go to register. Anyone who was already in the academy, you didn't have to worry about the enrollment fee. So Ashlyn was asking, she's already in the academy, does she have to be concerned with that? No, you didn't have to worry about the enrollment fee. Unless you did pay the enrollment fee, which we had like 3 people, I think, who enrolled. If you did, just send me a message and I'll take care of you. Don't worry about that. What is the code? Barry, did you see a code? Is it for the Zoom meeting today? Which code did you need? Oh, the promo code. There's no promo code. Right now it's still open until I end this Zoom call. It's nfnlearningacademy.com. So after I get off this call, I'll just check to see if we have our first 30 people and then I'll close it. Yes, the recording, Ashley, will be sent out via email. So I'm going to be posting it on my website, but I will send an email out for everyone who was registered so that you guys can have the recording and watch from the very beginning. Nicole did an amazing job today. I'm sure, you know, everyone on this, everyone on this recording will vouch for me. She gave so much information. I cannot even believe that she crammed all of that into this presentation and still made it as simple as she did. Like, she did an amazing job. So we're definitely going to give her some claps before we end this live.
Yes, I want to register, but there's no way that I'm in West Africa to be able to go and register while I'm still on this call.
Okay, send me a message. I'll take care of it for you. Let me put it
All right.
in NFN Learning Academy.
Yes, I've got the website, but what you said at the end of this call that the registration will stop, and I can't register while I'm on the call.
No problem. Oh yeah, I understand international barriers. I will take care of it for you. Don't worry. Just send me a message via email or on Facebook, and I'll send you the direct link to register. So we'll have 31 people who are registered. That's no big deal. Okay.
Thank you.
Gigi,
Yes.
is the registration only for the new members, or is that for the grant writing sessions that you were talking about for throughout the year?
Yes. So actually, anyone who's already in the academy, because we started the academy 2020.
Right, I've been a member since then.
Yep, you're already in there. All you have to do is go to the events tab, and then you'll be able to just sign up so that you get the weekly emails. It's going to be every evening at Sunday every evening at 8 p.m. So you'll just get a notification, once the Zoom link pops up, so you can join our meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Let me see what's going on. People are saying the site won't load. I wonder if we got overhaul here. Let's see.
And I had a quick question.
Sure.
So I signed up last night, and I've been going through all of the modules. There's some that are locked, and I actually have that 7 days for free.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that correlate to everything? Am I supposed to send something somewhere else?
Mm-hmm. So you're in the Learning Academy and you're just looking at the courses, and some of them are locked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and were you able to submit a request to join the course?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll check with my moderator. All we have to do is approve you. Sometimes it locks the courses. It's just one of the, small things that are strange about the platform, but everything else is great. All we have to do is accept you into that course, and then you'll be able to go back and watch that training. I forgot to mention to you guys that all of the, templates, the trainings, the courses that we've taught in the past 2 years are in the Academy as well. So even though we're starting January 2nd, you'll actually be able to, take some self-paced courses while you're waiting. And yes, there is a 7-day free trial. So you get to peek in and see, what's inside before you completely commit.
Okay, so I don't have to send an email. I just have to go to the, which section, which tab?
Just go to the courses tab, and then you just request to join. I'll check with my moderator to see if there's any that are pending, and we'll make sure you get in. But you have access to everything in the Academy. Nothing is locked to where you can't get access.
No, I guess what I meant is when I signed up last night, it told me $49 a month. So in order to benefit from the $25 ones.
Yeah, okay. So for the special today, where we're waiving the enrollment fee, you can take advantage of that. So it's going to be $49 enrollment fee and then $25 a month, which is what Nicole and I, after looking at, what was in our client's budget for a monthly training, that's what we decided the final price would be. So if you go on our website, you'll see the price updated. Everyone's going to be able to take advantage of the $25 a month. The enrollment fee is the only difference about, oh, cool, Delia just signed up. The enrollment fee is the only difference. So today, whoever's on the live video will be able to take advantage of the enrollment fee waive. But Ashlyn, was it Ashlyn or Shalanda who I was speaking to?
Ashlyn.
Ashlyn, yes, Miss Ashlyn. So anyone who already was registered, you're already qualified to waive the enrollment fee if you're interested in that, which we can take care of that for you, especially since you're on the live video today. You just have to let me know, send me a message. We'll take care of that for you. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Miss Gigi?
Yes.
It's Lena. So for old members who already paid the annual fee, we're already sort of can just sign up for the class?
Exactly. Yep. You're already in the Academy. All you have to do is go to the events tab, and then just really, it's going to be you getting the emails every time, there's an event. If you're not registered for the event, then the Academy is not going to email you. That's the only difference.
Okay. And my other question, so if I still haven't quite finished the business plan, what do you recommend us still jump into the, like I'm at AA, like probably negative A, trying to get to Z. What about people like me who is like at the beginning?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I pull up the agenda, you will feel a lot more comfortable getting started. Give me a second. Agenda. Okay. I actually sent it out via email as well to a few people. Let me share my screen.
Excuse me, Gigi.
Yes.
Did you just see Shalanda signed up?
Let me see. I'm not sure if I can see it right now because I'm getting so many notifications. See if you can log in. If you can log into the Academy, then you're signed up. If there's no charge, so I know someone asked if they were, if they were supposed to pay the enrollment fee right away. The $25 a month, you still have a 7-day free trial, so you don't have to pay that right away. Okay.
Well, it wouldn't let me go any further without paying it.
For the 7-day free trial, you couldn't take advantage of the free trial.
No, you're going to put your credit card information, but you're not going to pay anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk about the very beginning. So Learning Academy 2022 agenda. To answer your question, the very first workshop that we're going to do is a crash course on nonprofit management. So again, we have people who start at all different levels. We're literally going to start at making sure you understand completely 100% what a nonprofit is and what it isn't, the pros and cons, staff, staffing, committee and board structure, applying for tax exemption. Also, we have a 501c3 walkthrough completely free in the Academy in the courses section. So you can take that self-paced course. You don't have to pay anyone to help you with the 501c3 application if you don't want to. Strategic partnerships between, if you have an LLC, which happens a lot, people start an LLC and they're like, okay, well, can I use that and switch it to a nonprofit? Yes, you can, but it is very complicated to do so. It will be a lot simpler if you just put together either dissolve your LLC and start fresh, or we can possibly create a strategy for both of your companies to work together. Clarifying your mission, vision, target audience, identifying your community needs. You will have a business plan by the time you leave your first couple of weeks, as well as we do have about 3 hours worth of self-paced business planning courses in the Academy that you can start before we even, start on January 2nd live. Okay, let's see, any other questions?
You said,
I have
you
one.
said-
Oh, sorry.
you said if, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You said,
It's a lag. Oh my gosh.
You said you said I could sign in if I had paid or something. What did you mean by that, Gigi?
Yeah, so as long as you can sign into your account, you should be enrolled. I'm going to send you guys my cell phone number in the chat. Just text help so I know that you're from the live meeting today. That way,
Okay.
if you're having trouble getting enrolled, I can help you out.
Hi, good morning. I hope all is well. Happy holidays, everyone. I do have a Q&A question, so I don't know if you were responding. You want to go ahead with the other question, jot your number, and then I could.
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
I could say.
Okay, there we go. So just text help to my cell phone number, my business number, 667-328-0060. And anyone who's having trouble, or just has any questions about enrollment, whether or not they were officially enrolled, I will know that you were on this live training and I'll be able to help you. Okay. Okay, any other questions?
Where did you send your cell phone number to?
To the chat box. It's 667-328.
Okay.
0060. Also, I think someone asked about board members. Do not enroll your board members at full price. In order to have your board members attend the weekly meetings, it's going to be $4.99 a month. So you don't need to enroll them in the $24.99. When you get your welcome packet, which we will be releasing within the next couple of weeks, introducing you to our coaches, introducing you to all the opportunities that we have for you guys coming up this year, that's when you will be able to do so. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, you did the number like 5 times, but can you just do it one more time for me?
Sure. 667 328 0060.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
My host, I actually have my own host for my website. It's not WordPress, but it's very similar to WordPress. It's ran on Amazon Web Services, so AWS. But we do website development, and one of the things that we offer is access to our hosting site, which is very similar to WordPress as far as the quality and the speed. And our Learning Academy is hosted on Mighty Networks. Sorry, go ahead.
Does that number work on Skype?
I did have a Q&A.
WhatsApp?
Can I say mine, please?
I'm sorry, I hear 2 people speaking.
Yeah, I wanted to say my Q&A.
Oh, you had a question? Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So I did post it on the chat some time ago. I wanted to know about the W-9. Do you have accountants? I don't know if that was discussed. Do you have accountants on file, or what I'm trying to do? I hired some consultants for my nonprofit this year, and I didn't know about it, but I'm sure I have to submit them the W-9 form, obviously before the end of, I don't know what next steps to take. So
Oh,
I have to
yeah.
give them a blank W-9 form.
Yes, yes, that's a good question. So you need to, okay, can you say mute your mics? Hold on, let me mute everyone. And then you can unmute yourself as you're speaking. Yes, we do have an accountant, Winona. She is accounting / bookkeeping. So she will be able to help you with your W-9. But I can tell you that, you know, I am not a CPA, but I can tell you that in order to complete the W-9, you're going to, if it is for yourself, which typically is going to be, you're going to put your name and your social and any other information that you have. It needs to be completed when you submit it for a grant. But you know, an account.
It's not for me. Thank you. It's for the clients that not clients, but consultants I hired.
Oh,
so I have to give them a form. It's not for me. I have to give them a blank form.
Yes.
I don't know why I have to do it, but somebody told me I have to do it if I paid them over $600 for, you know, for any services with the organization, any organization, it doesn't have to be nonprofit, be for profit too. That, you know, you're working as a 1099 or, you know, I have to submit a W-9 form and send to them. And they send it back to me.
Yep, you're exactly right. Yep, you're gonna give them a blank form. Yes. Nicole put a link as well, some more information about the W-9, and then she said you're also going to need a 1099 from them. Okay. I think someone else was speaking and they got interrupted. Are you still here?
Yes, that was me in the Gambia. I was asking whether or not the number that you gave, the 667 number, works on Skype or WhatsApp, because it would cost me about $50 to call you. And
oh no, we don't want that.
No.
Do you have us on our Facebook? Well, actually, just go to my website, nonprofitfornewbies.com. That'll be the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
And just send me a message. I'll get an email.
Okay.
Just go to the contact page. I'm going to put this in the chat. Okay. And academy enrollment. Any other questions?
Hi, Gigi's Blessing.
Hey, Blessing. How you go? How you doing?
I'm good. I just want to.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I think we lost her. You still here?
I'm sorry, I'm at work. That's why. I just want to say it was, thank you so much for your time. Thanks, you know, you've always been a blessing to us, you know, in this nonprofit setting. Thank you. That was a very useful information. And of course, I'm going to be reaching out to you. You know, I think I want some work to do. But thank you so much. You are a blessing. I really appreciate it. And Nicole, thank you so much. That was some useful information. Now I need to get back on and start doing my work. Thanks again, Gigi. I'll be reaching out to you.
Thank you. And everyone, please thank Nicole in the chat while we're answering questions, because honestly, this recording is fire. Everyone, I'm going to make sure as many people as possible have access to this training. She did such an amazing job. I feel like every single organization who is just starting out needs access to this information. So please, if you have anyone that you can share this recording with, please do. I feel like this training was imperative to a newbie nonprofit's successful startup.
Hi, Gigi.
Yes.
I have a question. First of all, thank you, Nicole. That was fabulous. Thank you guys for putting this together. It's truly appreciated.
Yes.
Also, I have a question. So when I'm bringing a board member in at every workshop, will you always put a separate link into the chat? Is that how that would work for them to come in?
Okay, so you're saying if you enroll in the $5 a month for your board members?
Exactly. And it's time for the workshop. Yes. How do there will be a separate link for them to come in?
No, actually, anyone who you recruit as a board member, they're just going to have access to the academy just like you do. Since you're paying a monthly fee, we want them to have access to everything.
Okay.
The only situation in which that won't be the case is anyone who does not invite their board members, you can still take advantage of the week when we have the board training. So we're going to, again, like I said earlier, we're going to do a training for you. And at that time, anyone can invite their board members and we'll just give you the link to that specific meeting.
Oh, okay. So that would be better. Do you advise that just to bring them in when it's time to do the board?
So
meeting?
it depends on the situation. I have situations where I have clients who have co-founders. That would be a great opportunity to bring in board members, or if you have board members who actually want to get involved. What I'm going to tell you, what Nicole and my other coaches are going to tell you at the very beginning is that you cannot do this by yourself. And it would technically be a lot easier to say, hey, can you attend training 3 for me? I can't make it, as opposed to, or sitting in and then also saying, hey, you know, can you attend as well? As opposed to reteaching this information, such as maybe like writing your mission and vision. It might be easier to have all of your board members or the people who are really active attend. So it's completely up to you. If you have an active board already or people who are willing to get involved, then you can take advantage of having them attend every meeting. It's $5 a month. It's not going to, you know, break most anyone's pocket. So it's definitely a great opportunity for your board. But if, you know, you don't have any quality board members right now, then it probably is just going to be a waste of money for you to tell people to show up and they're not going to show up. But we don't want that for you. So let us help you get those high quality board members first, and then we'll do the board training.
Well, as of now, I'm just basically speaking on the president, the secretary, and treasurer. They'll be transitioning out in 22, just want to attend events. And how do I pay for that? I noticed that I read somewhere where it says don't pay for it in full. So
Yeah.
how do I pay for that fee?
Exactly. Yeah. Don't pay for the board members the $25 a month. Everyone's going to get a welcome packet. So first of all, when you first join the academy, if you're not already in there, you're going to schedule your 2022 development session with Nicole. And then we're going to send you a welcome packet before we get started on the workshops. The welcome packet is going to have everything you need to know. Anything you can add on, such as adding board members. If you want grant writing services, you can add those on. If you're like, okay, I'm gonna sit in on this program development class, but I might need somebody to walk with me one-on-one on a weekly or monthly basis and talk me through all this information, you can add that on. We have 30 minutes for $30, 60 minutes for $60. Every single one of our coaches are more than willing to do that for you. The scheduling for the the scheduling for the 2022 meeting is in the chat, in the activity section. So just search her name, or you can search her name in the members section and then find her and send her a message.
So Gigi, as far as me already being a member and I want to pay that $4.90, our nonprofit want to pay for that program expense, workshop expense. So I'm asking as a member already, do you send out an invoice for that $4.99?
Oh, it's still going to be in the welcome packet. Sorry, it's going to be in the welcome packet. Everyone's going to get access.
So everyone to get it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Any other questions for me?
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, hi, good morning. One more thing I wanted to ask of. You could check your email for me, Gigi, about what we wanted to move forward with.
Is this Sylvia?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely, yes.
Okay, I did respond to you. I did reply. So just wanted to let you know about that. Let me see. Now, yes, this $25, is that the $249 package?
Are you on the nfnlearningacademy.com and you see a $249?
Yes, I think the trial is over, so I guess you guys are moving forward with becoming a member. I haven't had a chance, honestly. I'm just jumping on now. I came on late. It's just I haven't had a chance to even review the trial. It's just been very, very busy, but I'm moving forward. So I wanted to know that involves like getting, you know, referral, because my main thing right now is this W-9 situation. So am I able to get an accountant through this program, through that workshop, or able to
Yep.
get some guidance so I could send these W-9 forms or the 1099 forms to these consultants?
Yes, good question. So we have free open office hours included in the academy. So you can sit down with any of our coaches for 15 to 20 minutes once a month for free and ask any question that you want. You don't have to pay for that. If you want her to spend additional time with you, then you can pay the $30 for 30 minutes or the $60 for 60 minutes. Or you can hire her to help you with any services. So you can, review what services she can offer you during your open office hours, if that's an option that you want to, if that's a route you want to take.
Okay, awesome. So that 15, 20 minutes for now, is there a calendar in this, in a network that, that we sign up with?
Yep. So the open office hours from our fundraising coach, accounting, board development, grant writing. We have 2 grant writing coaches. You can speak with me as well. Those are going to be posted in the open office hours. So I've been working with my coaches to prepare for next year. So we haven't opened the open office hours for this month yet, but they will be opening up. You just have to keep an eye on your email. You'll get notifications as people, open up their office hours.
Right. Now, thank you so much, Gigi. Now, as far as I know you were mentioning about the grant writing coach, or that's something that we could pay on a monthly basis. That's something that's starting, you said, in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And we're going to have, so this, all of this information, so introduction to nonprofit management, everything that goes into business planning, board development, program creation, compliance, writing grants, all of that is going to be within the weekly workshops, number one. So you'll have access to all that information as part of the academy. It will be taught by Nicole, our grant writer, myself, and all of the rest of the coaches. Now, in addition to that, if you want to hire a grant writer, you can hire Nicole, or you can hire our other grant writing coach. It depends on the specifics of your project, who you might choose to go to. The ladies will help you decide. But when you do decide to take on that project, you can get a quote from that coach on what the exact price for grant writing would be. But we do walk through grants together in the academy for free as part of the Accelerator. Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's so much to, would there be like but I guess this is the virtual orientation.
Yeah, there will be another one on, I know, this is a lot of information. We will have an official orientation with just our members on January 2nd, which is a Sunday at 8 p.m.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, Nicole. This is, obviously I joined in late, so I'm glad that your replay will be available. So I could listen in, and that'll be available, I guess, this coming week, or?
Yeah, I should have it today or tomorrow at the latest.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And
When
also,
is
please,
that?
the proposal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, the proposal, so we could move forward.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, I was preparing for this call, but I will definitely get back to you today.
Yes.
She's ready. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When is that Sunday 8 p.m. going to be, more or less?
So it's 8 p.m. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be our orientation.
Right. And when will that be, more or less?
You're asking
when?
What month?
January the 2nd.
January the 2nd. Yeah, sorry. January 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any other questions?
I just this is Shalanda again. I just wanted to know, did I make the 30 people to sign up?
Probably. I'll check. Send me a text so I can check that for you.
Okay.
I got booted out. I just want to know the date of the orientation real quick before I get.
Oh, sorry about that. January 2nd.
January 2nd. Yes, because here I'm 8 hours in front of you, so that's 1 o'clock in the morning for me.
Oh, no problem. We'll have it recorded. You do not have to be there.
Oh,
at
no
1 a.m.
problem.
Where every single workshop that we have is going to be recorded. So we'll have a whole entire section that you can go back and watch replays.
Right, yes, yes. And I'm hoping that there's going to be a way that I could have a one-on-one. I just need you for 10 minutes, not even that, probably 5, that I could ask you a major question that I really don't want to ask in public.
Yes, of course. Yep. You can, if it's textable, send me, like I said, go to my website and send me an email, but I can respond to your email. And if we need to talk on the phone, we can coordinate that. I have WhatsApp on my personal cell phone.
Okay, all righty, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you. I was a bit skeptical about what I could possibly learn on a Zoom call and this and that and the other. I just can't tell you how grateful I am. I have a different perspective because I'm in Africa, I'm not in the US. And so there's some things, but I was able to see in every instance where something was applicable to US, I was able to see what it would be in West Africa. So excitement is not enough for me to say.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
We're excited.
Are we going to end now? Because I really.
Oh, you can log off. I'm just answering questions.
I don't want to miss anything. So that's why.
I know some people, are on lunch break and everything like that. So I'm just trying to get all the questions in, before we hang up. Any other questions?
Yes. Give me your phone number. The last four digits of 0006.
667-328-0060.
Oh, okay. So that's wrong.
0060.
I had a quick question if I could.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask about board members. I do have family down, but I have some others that would like to join and that would probably be more beneficial. Is there any way I can change that on my paperwork? Because everything has been approved. I have my 501c3 and all of that.
Okay, so you have family members on your board currently, but you want to add more high quality board members. So you want to change your board of directors or add more?
Probably change it.
Yeah, that's no problem. So it depends how deep you've gotten into it. If you guys haven't had a board meeting yet, and it's family, so it's really not something that needs to be too formal if they don't mind. But the formal way to do it would be that if you have family members who are on board and you guys have not had a board meeting yet, then they would just be the board that you chose in order to file your paperwork. So you can change that board at any time up until they sign the bylaws. If they sign the bylaws, or if you've had your first board meeting, again, you can just draft the new bylaws. If it's family and they don't have any problem with it, just get confirmation. You can just revamp your board, no problem. You do not have to update your paperwork unless the state or the IRS sends you something in the mail or an email requesting, to know anything about your board. You would typically do an annual report where they will say, hey, can you update us on the latest board of directors that you have? So that's something that you might have to do at the beginning of next year if they ask. And if you've had your board meeting already and you've signed your bylaws, then the board member would have to agree to resign from the position is typically what your bylaws are going to say. Your bylaws should have something in there, but that's usually what it's going to be. I'm sorry, what did you say?
We haven't had a board meeting or anything. I've been doing all the lead work and I haven't got funded through anyone yet. Just everything is coming out of my pocket. So no, and I don't even have a particular name for who does what. It's just like family. It's just the only thing I have on there. So.
Yeah, no, a lot of, founders who are just starting out want to get their paperwork started. In certain states, there's like 4 or 5 states who do require you to list a board. And then when you file your 501c3, you have to list a minimum of 3 board members. So it's no problem for you to put an initial board on the paperwork, and then as your organization develops and you start to network and find more high quality people who can contribute more, it's no problem for you to update your board as long as you haven't had your first board meeting and they haven't, signed the bylaws.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Very
welcome.
helpful.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have just one question. I have a nonprofit. I have my 501(c)(3) status. I stopped due to the pandemic. I'm kind of going in a new direction, and I wanted to know if I'm able to change my mission outside of refiling paperwork, or do I have to update anything that dictates that I change my mission?
Good question. Okay. So if you have filed your 501(c)(3), which you said you did, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only thing that you would need to take a look at. Well, it depends. It's very possible that you also put your purpose statement on your state paperwork. So
Yes.
just check your paperwork. Yeah. Okay. Then if you did, you just want to call the Secretary of State to find out if you are changing the purpose of your organization. Do they want you to amend your articles? So that's the first step.
Okay.
Okay. So Secretary of State, amend articles. The second step would be to contact the IRS Charitable Division. If you call the just general IRS number, you will be waiting forever. So call the Charitable Division and let them know that you'd like to update the purpose of your organization. The IRS Charitable Division is, honestly, it's a call center. So you're going to get the information that you get. Take down the name of the person who gave you the information, take down their ID number, and take down the information about what they told you the process was for updating your purpose statement. Sometimes they will tell you don't have to do anything. If that's what the IRS tells you, that's fine. But again, just keep in mind it's a call center. You can't speak to the IRS, which is really strange, but you either have to find the information on their website. If the information is not there, you have to call the call center. And the call center will tell you what they want to tell you. So just keep good record of the information that they give you, so that you don't run into anything down the line.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Yes.
This is,
Oh, hi.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Someone's going first? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Regina Gibbons in Maryland. I heard you talk about the board and doing an amendment. I guess my question is that I need to pretty much replace probably 2/3 of my board. And I don't really know how. I guess that's where I'm kind of stuck. I don't know how, because they're just not working. I mean, it's as simple as that. They're just not really doing anything. So I need to figure out what that process looks like, or is there a process for that?
Okay, good question. And before I go any further, I just want to apologize to you guys. So I see that you're pressing the raise your hand button, but I can't see the order. So that's why I'm sort of ignoring it, because I have no clue who raised their hand first. So I'm just letting you guys speak as the questions come. To answer your question, I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Are you asking how to revamp your board on paperwork, or as far as finding better board members?
I'm asking how to revamp them on paperwork, because I know the reality is I can't fire them in essence, but that's what I would like to do.
Okay. And do you think that you're going to have an issue if you were to present to them, hey, this is the facts, you guys are not assisting me, I need to find people who are better able to assist me? Do you think they're gonna have a problem with that?
Absolutely, because they think in their mind they are, because they pay their dues and they share a post every now and again.
Okay. So what you're going to need to do first and foremost is you're going to need to check your bylaws and see what the terminology, what the provision is on board members, and whether or not, if they don't want to step down, it's typically going to have to be a vote. So it can get tricky with a nonprofit. One of the things that on the very first day right here, we talk about the pros and cons. And we also talk about board structure. And one of the things that I talk about is board culture. I don't know, oh, someone's writing on the paper. One of the things I talk about is board culture. We want to make sure that, and board expectations. I even have a whole sample packet for you on board expectations and, you know, what you need to clarify with your board before you get started. It's difficult to remove your board once they are your board. So that's why we have to be very careful about who we add. But after they are board members, you have to follow the bylaws. There is no way to remove your board members without a board. Typically, whatever's in your bylaws is what's really the information that you need to know. But typically, it's going to be that, you know, there has to be a vote to remove that board member. Or if you can prove that there is some type of conflict of interest. So if you can, like, if you have people who are family members, you know, like, let's say you have Sarah, who is sisters with Michelle. If you say, hey, let's vote to remove Sarah, Michelle's not going to vote to remove her. It's not what's in the best interest of the organization. If we need to revamp the board in order to move forward with the mission, that's what's in the best interest. You cannot vote. They're essentially going to be voting based on what's best for their family member. So that would be considered a conflict of interest. I worked with a large organization who the founder really, she kicked her board off because of conflicts of interest. But that's a legal battle as well. So it gets tricky. I would say, you know, it might be them coming at a very minimum, coming to our train the board meeting. We will get them straight. We will let them know what their responsibilities are. And then you can also have Kim, you know, work with you and your board to figure out where the responsibilities lie and why and how, why it's all on your shoulders and how we can make it so that the responsibilities are spread throughout the board. So, you know, those are alternatives. It's so tricky because I know it's your baby and I know it's completely unfair for everything to be on your shoulders, but everyone else is taking up space. So I wish I had a better answer for you as far as like, yeah, just remove them, but you technically cannot do that if they're already active board members. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And I kind of knew that was the answer, but I was just hoping for something different.
I know. Well, thank you for asking, because at least we will be able to inform other people who are working on structuring their board right now. Be careful who you add to your board and make sure that they have a clear understanding of what's expected of them. And again, right here, you'll see we have a whole for founders and executive directors. We have a training. Board signing, what documentation you need to sign. We have a sample bylaws and conflict of interest policy for you that is IRS compliant. I've used it in audits and haven't had problems or issues from the IRS. And an onboarding packet, we will provide to you an onboarding packet so that you can introduce your board not only to your culture, but what expectations you have from them and making sure that they're able to fulfill those expectations before they take on that role as a board member. And then after that, we have the invite your board training, where once you have your high quality board members, we will train them on how to be great board members. So it's a learning lesson for a lot of people as well. So that'll help somebody. So thank you.
Gigi?
Yes.
I have a question. So I am here listening to everything that's going on. I work with and I groom my own group of nonprofits. I've got a group of about 3,500, and it's going to grow to potentially 50,000. But right now, 3,500. And then I've got a group in Africa that's about 700. And I'm looking at, because it's just me, I don't have the time. I don't have the team structure like you do, how I could potentially kind of utilize the platform that you have already to help me in guidance for the organizations that I'm working with, because a lot of them are very, very new. And I don't have the time. I'm just one person. And so it's either I'm overwhelmed with getting documents together, or I'm overwhelmed with following up on things, or how, as long as this Zoom is gone, I've had 4-hour Zooms before. And we still were nowhere near everybody being done with their questions. And so I'm just really like, it's outgrown me. by myself. So I'm looking at, like, can we have some type of conversation about how to potentially support the groups that I have with the platform that you have, to see if we can come up with something?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can either send me an email, gg@nonprofitfornewbies.com. Now this is for partnerships. So if you guys just need assistance with, the Learning Academy, just email me at customerservice@nonprofitfornewbies.com. But for partnership opportunities or ways to collaborate, email me at gg@nonprofitfornewbies.com, GIGI. Or you can text me at my cell phone number and we can connect. We can set up a time to talk over the phone and figure out, how we can help you, whether it's, sharing our platform with you, sharing some of our trainings with you, some of our courses, whatever we can do to help. I'm sure we can figure out a way to partner.
Okay, I'm texting your email right back to you into the chat so that I won't lose it.
Okay.
That's it, right? gg@nonprofits.
Yep. Oh, no, let me type it out for you. Oh, sorry, I just sent it to Mia. That was not what I intended. Give me a minute. And just so you know, I totally understand, that process of taking it all in on your own. It's so overwhelming. And it took me so long to find a team that I could actually trust to take some of that load off of me. And, even from this training, you can see that we have high quality coaches, but it is expensive as well. We have to pay for background checks, the time that I have to take to onboard the coaches, the time that I have to, take to get them used to the academy, get them used to our company culture, and then spending time with them, on training them on how to work as a unit, work together in the best interest of our members. So I totally understand what you're going through as far as, trying to take it all on your own, because you want to make sure that you have high quality services, but we definitely have a strong team that we might be able to help you out there. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Just to go back on what, this is Shayla, by the way. Just to go back on what you were saying as far as exiting out board members. So for me, I guess my question is, if they're not, does that apply to if they're not like on paper? Like right now, only 2 people, which is, well, actually 1, which is my secretary, was actually on paper, and other head members are not. So is it still that, I guess, that serious as far as exiting out any members if they're not like officially on paperwork, if they have not been really active in their role?
Okay, so they're not on paperwork. And how long have they been with the organization, and have you had any board meetings?
So we do a board member, we do a board meeting every Monday, but for the last maybe 2 months, I just stopped because members wasn't being active. I had stopped doing meetings. But prior to that, it's like, I guess members come in and out, they're not like, they'll attend a meeting here or there, or, sometimes not at all. But like I said, they're not on paperwork. Nobody's on paper except for my secretary. So and I'm just asking to vote them, to get them out, will we still have to go through a vote with them not being on paperwork?
So technically, if they haven't signed the bylaws, they're not listed on your articles, and they're not listed on your 501c3 paperwork, then they're not on your board. So ethically, I would still have a conversation with them and let them know, this is what's going on. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm doing it all by myself. I need board members who have more time to contribute to the organization. I would take a positive approach to it, because there's, if you take really letting them know really what it is. You know, they might come back, they might respond negatively. I would try to take the positive approach first and let them know, you know, you're asking them to step down. That way you don't, you know, cut that gap or, you know, what was it, burn the bridge. But at the same time, they can still be volunteers. You know, they just can't commit to being a board member, and that's fine. But officially speaking, you know, if you're not on paperwork, you're not a board member. You were just a board advisor. You were attending board meetings, you were sharing helpful tips and information, but you're not a board member if you're not on paperwork.
Awesome. That is awesome information. Good. That's kind of what. So when me and my other board member was kind of going back and forth to, you know, to make sure we was doing it right, I still give the benefit of the doubt of still like, okay, we need to go ahead and vote and do this, that, and the third, even though they're not on paperwork. But I just wanted to make sure, because they're not on paperwork, that we really didn't have to do that route as voting this person out. And the conversation has been had. You know, I always give my members, if you ever feel overwhelmed, you know, just let me know. It's okay to want to step down. I understand that other people, you know, you have things going on outside of this, but this is my baby, you know, so I need to make sure that the wheels are turning the way they need to be, and I don't need anybody hindering that. So it does, you know, the conversation feel like it's continually. So we just had the conversation the other day as far as, you know, getting this person or people out or whatever. So I just wanted to make sure that I was doing it the right way.
Yep, absolutely.
And the last one was with the getting the membership of your enrollment and stuff like that. How do I guess, make sure that I'm doing it right as far as getting everybody on roll into the meetings and stuff like that or whatever, to join in the group? Because I want a stable foundation is, I guess, what I'm trying to say, to get them. How do I'm really trying to make sure it makes sense.
Listen, one of the things that we do a lot, especially when I do my strategy sessions, just bring them, because I can organize the information that you're saying and make it make sense most of the time. If not, I'll ask questions, but just tell me what you're trying to say, and I'll probably be able to figure out what you're trying to say.
Okay, so we're considered the nonprofit, I guess, because the lady that was helping us is, you know, she gave us the 501 and all that other stuff. So right now, as what you were saying, only my secretary is really, you know, is a main member. Everybody else is like, I guess, volunteers or whatever. So I have to go through what to get them formally as head members.
Okay.
So do I need to talk to the person that gave me or that helped me with the nonprofit to get them on the paperwork, or can I go to another revenue? Because the person that started, I guess, helping me getting the nonprofit has not, I feel, completed that. So I don't know what I need to do now to make the members that I want to be official.
Okay, good question. So essentially what's going to happen is, here's the thing with the IRS. They don't really care until they ask. So, and the same thing with state compliance. The state and the IRS act separately. So even when you file your paperwork, you're going to file paperwork with the state, you're going to file paperwork with the IRS. When you add your board members to paperwork, some state, and every state is different, which is why it gets confusing to some people, but some states will ask you to put your board on. Some states will ask you to file an annual report letting them know as you've updated your board of directors. So they don't want you to update them every week if you have a different board of directors, you know, or someone resigns. They don't want to know every single time someone resigns or someone's added. They might ask you to give them that information on the annual report at the end of the year. One of the things that we will talk about in the academy is compliance. So we will work with you to make sure that you have a compliance checklist and you know what is required by your state. As far as the IRS, it's going to be across the United States. It's going to be the same information. Excuse me. There's a 990 that you file at the end of March. March. The 990 typically, now it does vary depending on how you filed your 501c3 paperwork. Generally speaking, it's going to be March. just around tax time, general tax time. And at that point in time, depending on which application you file, because there are different applications based on how much revenue you receive, that will determine how much information you give them. The 990 postcard, as far as I remember, again, it's been almost a year since I filed one. I don't think they ask for board members at all. So the IRS might not need that update. But I think if it's over a certain amount of money that you raise within the year, like let's just say it's $200,000. If you raise more than $200,000 in a year, you have to file the regular 990 application, which is a little bit longer, and they'll ask you a little bit more information. Like they might ask you who your board members were, where that funding came from, and different things like that. So the only thing you have to worry about with the state is the annual report. And you can always call, again, the Secretary of State to verify this information with your state, but in general, this is what it's going to be. Checking with the state to see what their annual report filing requirements are and making sure you complete that with the updated board members if they ask. And then with the IRS, again, it's going to be updating them on the 990 if it asks. The 990 postcard, I don't think it asks, which most organizations will file when they're first established. And then if you have to file the 990, whatever that limit of revenue might be, that's when you might have to update your board members.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gigi, it's me again, Chris. First of all, that was right there was exciting to me. Because in Michigan, you're correct about filing that, updating on your state. You do have to update that. That's a question I wanted to bring too. The treasurer and the secretary are resigning. They just want to help out at events. So basically, that's what I was going to ask. So next year, going into next year, mine would be May. My deadline is usually May. And so at that time, what happens if you don't have a new secretary or treasurer?
That's a very good question. So technically, okay, so every state has different requirements for how many board members you should have at any given time. So depending on what state, it might depend on how many board members you have. But if you have 501c3 status, the minimum, which I know you do, Ms. Chris, the minimum is going to be 3 board members at any given time. But obviously there will be time periods where you might only have 2 board members, where you might only have 1 board member as you actively look for more board members. That shouldn't be an issue at all. If you run across that issue, then, you know, I would honestly just, like what we usually do in the very beginning when we're filing paperwork, call a family friend or call a colleague and see if they can fill in for you while you find another high quality board member. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that's excellent. And I want to say something to everybody on the call. I've had Kim Stewart, which is a board member consultant. I've had her on the call, an hour on our call on one of our meetings, and it was excellent and informative. So she is in the academy. That's Kim Stewart. So I personally will refer her for a lot of these questions. And I also wanted to ask, well, one reason I joined this academy, I started out doing things, basically the paperwork, like one of those young ladies said, but then I just kept finding that it really was information I just paid for her services. And then I started researching a lot of things on my own, and I lucked up and ran into this great academy. I'm going to say this 1,000 times because it's been so insightful. This is not nothing they paid me to say. This is the truth because it brought more insight and detail. And the last question I have is, I noticed I don't have a business plan. So I started 2019. So do you recommend we do that earlier on, or it's okay that I don't have it now? What's that? And then I'm done with my 1,000 questions. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So honestly, I've met with you probably at least a minimum of once or twice a month within the last 6 months. So, you know, I'm giving you this information. This doesn't apply to everyone, but with the amount of information that we have already, and I think I sort of touched on this a little bit. I could put together a business plan for you.
Okay.
Within 30 minutes. We have more than enough information to put together the business plan. it's just a matter of putting it on paper, but that shouldn't be an issue if that's something you want to work together. I think we have a meeting today, or we can do it Thursday, or whatever works for you.
We do. So what do you recommend for people that haven't, is that something for newbies? Do you start out with your business plan, or how important is it to do it right away? What's your suggestion?
That's a good question. So in the Learning Academy, we have what's called a founder's journey, which starts you from the very beginning, which is research phase, learning about what a nonprofit is, what it isn't, right here, nonprofit management, all the way down into, this is step by step. I put a lot of time and effort. This has been evolved over like the past 2 years, step by step, what it takes in order to start a nonprofit organization and fund a nonprofit organization in order. So we're not going to just give you random weekly workshops. We're going to tell you in order exactly what you need to do and make sure you have everything in place so that you can move on to the next step. So board development, board training, making sure your foundation is strong. And then I would recommend starting on your branding. So, websites can take some time, Instagram, that web presence, which we will talk about how to use each social media platform. That is something that you can be working on while you business plan. So here's program design. While you're business planning, I would recommend that you have, again, you're working on your branding and you're business planning at the same time. So after you finish with your program design, all the way down, there's so many elements of program design, then you can focus on, marketing and things like that. But I would recommend as soon as you are finished with your paperwork and you make sure that your foundation, your organization's foundation was strong. So again, virtual office address setup, filing your articles, your 501c3, your bank account, setting up your accounting binder, crisis communications plan. Immediately after that, simultaneously working on your branding and your business plan / program design. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hi, Gigi. I have 2 questions. This is Elizabeth.
Sure.
Okay. First question is, when I filed my 501c3 paperwork, we got approved, but it looks like I forgot to check off a box, so they categorized us as a private foundation. So I'd like to change it, but I don't know how to do that. That's my first question. Second question is, I had a board member, she was with us for a year. And I asked her to step down because she wasn't, basically she wasn't doing anything for the organization. It was just kind of like dead weight, and she agreed to step down, and I drafted a memorandum that she agreed to step down. So I guess my question for that is that allowed? I did in my bylaws, it does say that the board member can choose to step down or be voted out. So I wanted to know if me asking a board member to step down, that's okay, as long as it goes along with our bylaws.
Absolutely. Your bylaws are like the contract that your organization signs with its team to establish what is allowed to take place within the organization. If it's in your bylaws, it is law. So as long as there's no clause saying the founder cannot ask someone to step down, which would be completely unreasonable anyway, yeah, absolutely, you can have someone step down from the organization if they're not able to fulfill their duties. And if they're willing to step down, then that's a lot easier than having to vote someone off. So yes. Now, as far as the private foundation designation, that's a tricky one. This is one of those things where it might not be the answer that you like, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because I want you to, be educated on it. The 501c3 application, did you file the 1023-EZ?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the tricky thing with the 1023-EZ is that a lot of people hear easy and they just go ahead and do it themselves. But sometimes we might there's so many yes or no questions and it doesn't ask for supporting documentation. So it might say, do you have your bylaws? And you can say yes or no. But you can say yes and not have your bylaws. If you get approved, then they probably won't check. If you get audited, then they might ask you for that supporting documentation. So for those who don't know, there are two applications for 501c3 status. The 1023 Easy is a more streamlined application. It has yes or no questions, and it doesn't typically ask you to provide the supporting documentation. This is just the educational piece. I'm sure you know this already. Now, as far as the private foundation, that was one of those yes or no questions that it's really silly that they don't explain more on the application what they're asking, because they charge. Now you can call the IRS Charitable Division to confirm this, but the last I checked that I had a client go through this, they said it was about $400 to correct. And I hate delivering that news because it's the worst thing ever. I know that budgets are tight. I know that, you know, the whole point of you doing the easy was to try to make it more affordable for yourself so you can put more money towards your programs. I know that. So it sucks I have to say this, but most likely they will tell you to file, like it's kind of like an amendment, file an amendment to your application, and they do charge a fee for that. So that's what you have to do. And then you would just contact the IRS Charitable Division, and they'll send you the exact form, or it might be on their website as well. You can just Google changing from a charitable 501c3 to a private foundation. And another thing for people who don't know, the private foundation is essentially, you know, Nicole talked about foundation grants. Foundation, so like let's just say Walmart Foundation. Walmart is a company, a for-profit company. They also have a nonprofit attached to them, which is the Walmart Foundation. But instead of them raising money from the community to fund their programs, which is what you're doing most likely, everyone here, what they're doing is they are funding the organization privately. So it might be funded by, you know, the CEO of Walmart. It might be a lot of the revenue that Walmart generates as a company might be funding their nonprofit, and it might be some of the Walmart CEO's closest friends, you know, Obama, Bush, whoever. So it's privately funded, so it's really exclusive, as opposed to a general charitable organization that we have here, 501c3, whereas we're organizing, you know, community events to raise money. We're applying for grants to raise money. So that's the difference. Okay. Did that help
Thank you so
answer your
much.
question?
Yes, you did. So if I want to change my private foundation to a charity, I would just have to contact the charity division of the IRS, ask them to send me a form and pay the $400.
Exactly. Yep. If you don't want to go through calling them, try to check the website first. You might be able to find it right away. But at least if you call them, I know for sure that you got the right form. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I don't think it's an actual form either. I think it's just something that you fax them and they tell you exactly what to put in the fax. So don't be confused if that's what they tell you. I haven't necessarily done it for myself. I just know the process.
And is there a time limit where you can change it? Like we got our status in August of 2020. So is there like a time limit where I have to change it, or can it wait? I'm trying not to pay the $400 now. I know I will have to, but I was just wondering, like, do I need to do it within a year, or is there, you know, if my question makes sense?
Yeah, so to be completely honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what the process is for as far as time frame, because I don't want to tell you something that's inaccurate and it messes you up in the long run. So I would definitely, in that case, if it's not on the website, just call to make sure, because I want to make sure you get all the correct information. Again, I've never filed as a private foundation. I just know I only work with, you know, the general charitable organizations that generate revenue from the community and grants. But I do know of a few members and clients who came to me with that situation, and we were able to research how to fix it. I just never looked at those specific questions that you're asking me. So I would recommend that you call just to make sure you get the right information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. I can't believe we still have 28 people on here after. I think we've been on this call for 2 hours and 30 minutes. So you guys did an amazing job being patient, giving me time to answer all of your questions. Let's see. Okay, Blessing, you can I got your message. You can text me. You have my phone number about the business planning. Any other questions?
No, absolutely. That's it. I just wanted you to know I'll be reaching out to you. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much.
Anyone
I
else?
have a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I just want to know, I want to get a better fundraising plan for the new year.
Mm-hmm.
So I was needing help because it'll be our 5th annual next year. And we're actually going to be expanding to New York with one of our runway shows that is a fundraising event. So I think I want to be more strategized this year because New York is more expensive than here in Atlanta. And we actually are building a committee there as well for the event to kind of like help with success of the event. So I want to know if you had any like pointers or things like that when you're starting to branch out.
Wonderful. Okay. So fundraising is not my expertise. I would recommend that in the Academy, you contact Nicole because she will be able to put together a full fundraising development plan for you. You can hire her to do that, or you can work with her, as part of, we have a cohort, because right now where you're at, you don't need to start with what a nonprofit is and what it isn't. Program design, for the most part, is probably already going to be done for you as well. In grant readiness, most likely you have everything, if not close to everything you need. But there will be things that you can improve on, and she can work with you on that. But we do have an exclusive cohort for organizations who are more advanced, even established a little bit longer, and you're looking to push your organization forward. You're looking to move that needle and get that funding and develop so that you can, basically capacity building is what it's called. So developing your organization and making it sustainable. So there's an exclusive group in the Academy. It's no additional cost. It's just for people who she determines don't need to participate in the grant readiness.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One more question from the Gambia. I managed to sign in and all of that, but I'm on the page and don't know how to sign out. I don't see a sign out spot.
Okay. Do you need to sign out? Because I can look that up for you. So what we use is Mighty Networks. Mighty Networks has a huge support system. I'm literally in a community with the founder of Mighty Networks. She is very hands-on. So anything that we have problems with, we can always reach out to her and figure out how to fix it.
I really have to go. I've got somebody standing outside waiting for me, and not signing out of here, the Zoom, but signing out of whatever. I got in and I registered and I got, and my name is on the page and I'm so excited and all of that, but I don't see where I sign out. I see home.
You click leave. You click leave at the top. You should see leave.
Oh, not on this Zoom. I see leave on this Zoom. I'm not talking about the Zoom. I'm talking about the registration on the website that we were registering for the.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be difficult for me to tell you because yours also probably looks a little different than mine. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can help you really quickly. And I can still answer questions while
so there's a R, and that's my name, or about view your and I see personal settings and purchases and save draft and save post, but I don't see anything that says sign out.
Okay.
On the left, there's about.
Okay, I see it. I'm sorry. You see the question mark next to accounts?
Yes, yes.
Next to it is like a little circle and a slash in the middle. Click that. It says log out.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Log out. Okay.
Now it didn't ask me for a password. So am I going to be able to get back in?
When you first signed up, you created a password.
No, I didn't.
You had to, that's how you got in.
Did you sign in with Google or?
Yes.
Okay, just you can sign in with Google and you'll just use your Google email password.
Thank you so much.
You're
God bless.
welcome.
I will see you another time. And I've just been so blessed that I can't even express it. So now I'm going to leave Zoom and tell everybody, and I want to figure out how to have a West African contingent of this, but that has to do with that 5 minutes I need of your time.
Okay,
All right.
we can do that.
God bless.
All right, God bless. Talk to you soon. Okay, thank you, LaKenya.
You're welcome, Gigi. Anytime.
Okay, any other questions? Ashlyn, did you have another question? It says your hand was still raised. It's not. Okay, any other questions for me? All right, so I'm going to, so everyone just say bye in the chat. So I know everyone's leaving, and I'll hold on for about 2-3 minutes just to make sure, you know, someone's not typing something or has any last minute questions. But thank you guys for attending. I think Nicole had to leave early. She had a scheduled call, but I appreciate everyone attending and taking in this information. Again, the replay, if you didn't make it at the very beginning around 10 a.m. So it was an extensive call, but as far as the educational portion of it, it wasn't 2 hours long. So you can go back and watch the replay and get that good information from Nicole as far as grant readiness, funding, and the process of drafting a proposal and submitting it to a grantor. Okay. All right, looks like no one has questions. So thank you guys again. Have a great day, and I will see you in the academy. Oh, Ashley, it says you raised your hand again. Are you typing? Okay, if you need anything, just send a text message to my business phone.